Behind every great leader and successful individual, people who make huge difference and huge mark in the world are mentors. That person that do not give up on you, that person that guide your life, that offer insight and values and experiences and different things that help shape your journey. You see, in life, success it's not only about a single man job. It's about the people who were there to cheer you on. In the times of your difficulty, the people who helped you to discover your right path and the right way to move and the right place to take based off their own past experiences. And these people are mentors. Today, joining with me is Deborah. And Deborah is the founder and CEO of the Mentor Project. And she's also a TEDx speaker. And today we are going to uncover the hidden secret, the hidden power of mentorship. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Proverbial Mind podcast. This is your host again, Samuel Oladeji. And here with me is Deborah Heiser. Deborah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for having me on your show. I'm delighted to be here.
That's great. Could you give us a brief introduction about yourself and what you do?
Sure. I'm an applied developmental psychologist. The area that I have focused on is the second half of life, midlife and older.
Right.
And I am also the CEO of the Mentor Project, where we bring top 1% experts in their fields to mentor students around the world for free. And I also just authored The Mentorship Edge, which is a book about mentorship.
Right.
And I teach at a university also, two classes every semester. So that's a little bit about myself. But my biggest passion is getting people connected through mentorship.
That's awesome. That's powerful. And that reminds me of a journey I once had many years ago when I was still in high school. This is a very long time ago. And I used to have this mentor, and he was an army man. He was in the Nigerian army, and he was a pastor as well. And that time, being very young and naive, not knowing much about life, it was this man that taught me so much about life, so much about God, and he really, really made a huge impact in directing my steps and helping me avoid so many mistakes that I could have made. And being who I am today is one of those people that God really used for me because He really helped me not only in my journey but also in my spiritual life. And I've never for once regretted it again ever since then. So that is the power of mentorship right there. Anytime I talk about my success, I can never forget that man because he was the person that God used for my foundation. So, that being said, Deborah, can you help us to understand? There's this saying that most people see mentorship as trying to get your trade to someone else. For example, if I am a professional accountant, some people see mentorship as okay, me trying to teach someone else who is upcoming on how to be a professional accountant. So that is teaching them how to crunch numbers, teaching them what all kind of matters you find on cash flow, like operating cost, cash balance and EBITDA, all of those things. That is what some people think mentorship is about. However, for me, I do see that as coaching actually, not really mentorship. So, what would you define true mentorship about, and how does it differ from coaching?
I love that you talk about that. And yeah, the term mentorship has been sort of hijacked by corporate America and is
Right.
used in a way that is interchangeable with some of the things like coaching and advising and all sorts of other things and networking. So, yeah, it's different. And here's what the real definition is. There's a developmental stage that we hit in midlife, and it's
Mhm.
called generativity. It's where we're built to want to give back. So
Right.
imagine yourself, you're a young person, and you're taking in everything you need to take in to figure out who you are
Right.
and what you're good at, what you like.
Mhm.
All of these things are important.
Mm.
right? So we're doing that. We're spending all of our time taking in. Well, you hit a point and you're full. And you
Right.
say, all right, I'm good at stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I know who my people are. I've
Right.
got all of this going on. Now what? Is this it?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the point where we want to give back. And like you said, it's not to say, oh, good, I want another person to be a good accountant.
Right.
It's that we have a desire to make sure that our mark is left in the world, that we matter, that we are important.
Mm.
So some of the biggest, most important things that we can give back are our culture, our values, our traditions. I mean, this has been done since, the
Years,
beginning of
ages.
time.
Right.
It's in every different kind of spiritual scripture that giving is good, that you should be giving. Tis better to give than to receive. All of these things are written everywhere. So the first thing we need is that desire to give back.
Right.
And sometimes when we're young, that desire may not crop up because we're still taking in. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But for a mentor, we need to want to give back.
Right.
And we need a person that wants to receive it.
Right.
So your example was you were ready for somebody to say, here's some guidance for you.
Right.
You were soaking it and you were saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. Now imagine if he was giving out that information and you weren't there to get it. That's
Right.
not fun. So
Mm-hmm.
we need both to be in existence, a
Right.
mentor and a mentee who both want to give and receive the same thing. The next thing is it has to be intrinsically motivated. So somebody has to want to do this
Mm-hmm.
and engage in this. And an example that I like to give is if I were to say to you, hey, Samuel, would you like to go volunteer your time at a soup kitchen, giving out food and beverage to hungry, thirsty people? You might say, yeah, and you'd feel good about yourself.
Right.
But if I said to you, instead of stopping by the soup kitchen, instead go volunteer your time at Starbucks, giving out food and beverage to hungry, thirsty people. Same action, but that feels very different.
Right.
Nobody really wants to go do that. So, what may look like mentorship on the outside has to come from that feeling inside that we have an innate desire to want to do it. We also need to have a meaningful connection. I have to like you,
Mm.
right? Every person that crosses your path isn't your friend.
Right.
Doesn't mean that there's something wrong with them or you. No, it's just not who you're meaning. You say that is a good person to maybe say hi to as I pass, but they're
Right.
not going to be somebody I have over for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
So the same thing is with mentorship. The person you described is somebody that I saw you light up when you talked about him. He
Mm-hmm.
matters to you
Right.
still today. And
Right.
I'm sure he feels the same way about you. So we need that meaningful connection.
Mm.
The next thing we need is to trust. So this is a big deal. If you're in the workplace and you think that you're going to go and get mentorship from somebody and then they're going to say, ooh, gee, Debbie doesn't really know that. I'm going to give her a bad performance evaluation, or I don't think I want to give her a raise because she doesn't know everything.
Right.
That's one thing. The other thing is I could be the boss and say, you know what, I'm not going to mentor Samuel because he's going to take my idea and run
Mm-hmm.
away with it,
Right.
or my clients. So we have to trust the person. And we understand this with friendships, right? Who
Mm-hmm.
makes friends with people you say, you know what, that person's going to throw me under the bus next
Right.
week? We don't do that. So
Right.
why would we do that with mentorship? And finally, we need a goal. Now, with friends, you don't need a goal. With other things, you don't need a goal, but you do with mentorship. And it can be a one-time goal. Hey, show me the lay of the land of the workplace. I'm brand new here. It's my first day. I
Mm.
need to know where to go and what to do and who everyone is.
Right.
Or it could be like you had. It was a whole series of goals. I
Mm-hmm.
want you to learn, the different kinds of I want you to learn spirituality. I want you to learn here's what you can do to be a successful person in this area.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that would shift and change as you reach each goal.
Right. Right.
So, mentorship is complex. If you are being paid to mentor, you're not a mentor. You're probably a coach
Mm-hmm.
or you're an advisor. So we have to differentiate these sorts of things because the goal of a coach is not to be what your mentor was to you. The goal of a coach is to get a person to do a good job at something.
Right.
You need to be better at your performance. Their goal is not having all of those other things that I had in there. A mentor's goal is to help to develop that person so that a piece of me lives
Mm.
in you. A
You, right.
piece of your mentor is living in you right now.
Mm.
You're carrying that. He is immortal in you.
Mhm.
You will pass that on to somebody else and it'll continue to live on. That doesn't happen with coaching. That doesn't happen with advising. That doesn't happen with the others. Mentorship is deeper.
Right.
It's more of an emotional thing, and it's an emotional developmental thing that we engage in life. Sorry, that was a long answer to that.
But no, that is actually powerful. The key things I brought out of it is the most obvious out of them all. Number one is the fact that coaching, you get paid for it,
Mhm.
whereas mentorship is coming from your will. You want to do this thing. You want to do it. You desire it because you feel like you've learned so much in life. You've learned so much experiences. You've gained so much mastery of life and
Yeah.
certain ideas and certain situations. And then you see somebody who is going the same path, even not exactly the same path, but kind of like the same path or journey in life and stuff. And you like, how can I breathe life into this person too and
Mhm.
give them the same experience, help them learn things that I've learned? Because it's like crunching 50 years of experience into maybe 1 year or 2 years of teaching, of, guiding, of showing somebody how to do something. And what that does is it saves the person from all the necessary unnecessary mistakes and traumas that could have gotten themselves
Yep.
into. It prepares them way more better and faster than they would have done if they had tried to figure out those things by themselves. So number
Yep.
one is that mentorship, you don't get paid for it. You do it out of will. You are the one giving life in this case. You're doing it out of passion, out of desire, out of will, because you've gotten so much experience in life and you feel you've gotten some level of mastery, and you want to also hand out somebody. You also want to hand a hand out to somebody, to hold somebody in the end and say, okay, I've reached there, I've gone through the process, I see how it is. Now let me take you out with me and let's go through it together so that you can even perhaps become better than me in the
Yeah.
process. And then coaching, on the other hand, you hire somebody to teach you perhaps maybe how to swim. Maybe you might develop some level of mentorship too in that coaching too, because there will probably be some personal experiences depending on the kind of relationship that you have with that coach teacher. But the idea that you're getting paid for it is already different. The attitude towards it, the emotional connection, the feeling towards it is already different because that monetization is already into it. And so the other thing I found again is the willingness of the mentee too to want to learn.
Yeah.
That is the person on the other side. Are they actually interested to want to receive all that learning or life or teaching? Otherwise, it will be pointless, if you're just
Yeah.
speaking to somebody and they don't want to maybe receive what you're learning. So those are the major things I got out of the differences between coaching and mentoring, because coaching, sometimes you can have to learn something by force if you don't want to, but you just probably want to do it because maybe that is what will mount to your promotion, or that's what will get you to that other thing that you want to do. But mentorship, you can't force it on somebody. It has to be something that the mentee too is willing to learn from. So these are some the major things that stand out to me in the difference between mentorship
Yeah.
and coaching. And I hope I captured it
You
well.
did that beautifully. You said that in such a way that is so meaningful because the when you describe it like that, it really describes it could be work or an outside of work.
Right.
And I'll give you an example of what it feels like when somebody doesn't accept the mentorship.
Hmm.
And this is not a mentoring example, but I remember my father-in-law was in the hospital,
Right.
and every day I was bringing him pastries,
Mm.
and I was sure that he was loving them and eating them. And then a week later, I opened up his side drawer and it had 10 pastries in it. He wasn't eating them. So here, this is what it feels like to be a mentor who's saying, I'm going to give you this information.
Hmm.
Now, if the mentee decides they're not going to take it, it's such a terrible feeling for a mentor, right?
Right.
So here it was. I went in, I was like, oh, every day I was bringing him in a pastry and he was putting it in his drawer. So if you can think of a person who is the power of the mentee,
Mm-hmm.
if they accept what we're giving, we feel good,
Right.
right?
Right.
And if they don't, we feel like, oh, I missed the mark somehow. Or was it me? What
Mm-hmm.
did I do wrong here? It turned out he didn't like pastries. So I kept bringing him the same thing that he didn't want every day
Right.
for 10 days.
Right.
That happens in the workplace because oftentimes a person will say, this is what the work wants.
Mm.
The workplace wants you to learn this. I'm going to be giving you this.
Right.
And the person is like, I don't really want that. That's like
Mm-hmm.
a pastry that you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to make sure that in mentorship that we're coming from the perspective of do both the mentor and the mentee want the
Want
same
that.
thing?
Right. Right. And that covers it beautifully well. The next question now I have is, how do you create an effective mentor and mentee relationship?
So really not I would say this. There's no failure. It's just
Right.
not mentorship. It's just like you have a friend or you don't, right?
You're
So
right.
you could meet somebody on the street and you're like, what a fine person, but they're not my person.
Mm-hmm.
They're not your friend.
Right.
Is there anything negative in that? Is that a failure? No. The
No.
same thing is with mentorship. If you meet somebody and you're offering them your pastry and they aren't accepting it, they're
Mm-hmm.
just not, it's not a mentor mentee relationship.
Right.
Move on. That's it. So all you really need is two willing people,
Mm-hmm.
trust, the
Mm-hmm.
desire to give back and the desire to receive, and a
Right.
goal. That's it. That's how you have it. So if you're in the workplace and you're saying, oh my goodness, how do I make sure that get myself a mentor that's going to work for me? You follow your own gut instinct. When I meet somebody, maybe I look to my left and I look to my right and I start meeting people. And if I say, wow, I think that person is pretty interesting. They have some
Mm-hmm.
stuff I could learn from. You say to yourself, ooh, potential mentor.
Right.
I look to my other side and I say, ooh, that person could learn from me. They don't know what I know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a potential mentor.
Right.
That's how we start to look at it. If we go to work and we're saying, who can I pull from and what can I get? That's the wrong way to look at it
Look at
because
it.
it has to come from the mentor.
Mm-hmm.
So you can say to somebody, I'd like some advice. This is a
Mm-hmm.
good way. And if a person gives you it, they say, sure, I'd like to give you advice. That's the first entree to mentorship. And then you feel it out. Do you like the person? Is
Right.
this somebody you want to continue to work with? Is this somebody you're going to want to get information from? Are they really the person that you would like to connect with? And then it'll happen. It's organic. It's something that you shouldn't have to put too much thought into. If you're going in every day and you're like, maybe today I'll feel like it's a mentoring relationship, move away from that person. That's not your mentor.
Right.
You'll get somebody else.
I see what you mean, and that is very true. It must be a natural flow, just like water. Water takes
Yes.
form of shape of anything. It's there is no obstruction. It doesn't have a static kind of shape. It just put water in a cup, it take the shape of the water. Put it in a pot, take the shape of the pot. And that
Yep.
is the natural flow state. And truly that is when it becomes much more meaningful and much
Yeah.
more effective when it is natural. So the key point here now is if you're in a mentorship relationship and it doesn't feel natural to you, you're going to meet the person, you're scared, or you just don't, you're not able to open and connect with that person, then that's probably not the place for you to be, because you won't really get much from it. You won't really be able to, get much from what the person is teaching you. Neither will you even be able to give life to the person as well. Because even though it's a mentor-mentee relationship, I believe both parties to give life to themselves one way or the other. Because though you might be the younger person or the inexperienced person, there could be some things about you too that could, be of value to the person. Now, this is not for you. This is not you to decide on that. I believe it's the mentor himself to decide on
Yeah.
that, because you don't know how really you can be of value to somebody at the very start. Only by observing over time and seeing, okay, he likes this or she likes that, or they don't like this, or they feel like this really, really matters a lot to them. And then you do that more, to make
Yeah.
it a win-win situation that is not just a one-way street. Because any relationship that's a one-way street most times doesn't last long. Humans tend to get overwhelmed when it's just a one-way street.
Yeah.
So that is another way I believe can add to building an effective mentor-mentee relationship in the long run. Letting it happen naturally, observing them and see how you can also offer value while the mentor is also giving you value. So it makes it a two-way street and both parties are benefiting from, what is happening and what is going on. So the other question I have now is, could you share like a time where you have a mentor, maybe just like a mentor that you had once in your life, and how did it feel like? How was the experience, and how do you find them? How did they shape your life, and what are the differences that it made?
Oh, wow. Okay. I could do this all day long. I have so many mentors that I literally could go for hours, but I'll give you my first one that I can remember. And this was my grandpa. So I was living in Des Moines, Iowa,
Right.
and I'm the oldest grandchild,
Hmm.
and he would drive me every Saturday around in his gigantic car. This was the early 1970s.
Right.
And so we would drive around. I'd be in the front seat and he'd be there. And he would be telling me all about the people on the street that we passed by. He'd
Hmm.
be like, oh my gosh, see Mary over there? She's had a rough day. And, she's taken the dry cleaning in and but she put her kids through school, but her husband drives her nuts and whatever. He'd tell me all this stuff. Now, I was a kid, so I was like, oh, I must know all these people. I'm sure
Hmm.
he knew none of them. However, what he was telling me at the same time while he was going through while we were driving and he was telling me the stories about everybody, was he said, you never know a person's story when you just pass them by.
True.
You, every person has a story and it's complex. You
Right.
don't know what anybody's story is by looking at them.
Mhm.
So he would make up these very complex stories about all of these people. Well, I'm a psychologist.
Mhm.
Where do you think I got that idea that I need to learn about people and learn about their stories? That came from him. After that, I was always looking at people like, what else is there? What more could there be to that person? So, the power that we have to mentor someone is often most powerful right in our own families
Mhm.
and or right in our but with our neighbors,
Mhm.
with friends, with people that we wouldn't expect it from. So that's one. And I'll just give you another because I don't want to take up your whole day with all my mentor stories. But another one was my one of my very first bosses. I was working in United Cerebral Palsy, and I talk about this in my book. Both
Mhm.
examples I talk about, but her name is Kim, and she was my boss. And I came in and I didn't know anything about working with kids with special needs. And I felt stiff. Have you ever gone someplace and you don't feel comfortable, so you're kind of stiff?
Yeah,
So
because you don't know what to do, and that keeps you
exactly,
locked up.
I was totally awkward.
Mm.
So I'm standing there and she's like, listen, you've got to go and find something that you like in every single kid.
Mm.
You don't look at anything that they have going on and you look for one thing you can improve.
Mm.
And that's something that you're going to work on. So she taught me that, and we're still friends now. Like I've long left that job,
Mhm.
but she was a mentor who taught me. It was kind of similar to what my grandfather was saying, but I was working right here with these kids.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, what's my task? And it wasn't a task that was needed, it was a bond with each child to see where they needed to go to move in a direction that would be helpful in their life. And she taught me that. And every day she would watch what I would do, and she would, after school, meet with me
Mhm.
outside of pay hours, outside of everything, and say, here's what you can do. Here's how you can improve what you're doing. And I didn't see that as her finding me incapable.
Mhm.
I felt like she saw potential in me.
Right.
And so as I improved, she then got to see what a good mentor she was and how good she was. It was really nice. That relationship has still stayed. We're still friends. And that was in like 1980 something that I had that job. So mentorship is strong and powerful, and it can be in a workplace or a home place.
That example you gave is actually very powerful because it captures all what we have talked about. Trust. You trust her information to know that she's giving you the right advice. And she trusts in your ability to be able to learn and to get the stuff done. and she gave you feedback, and you were not, some people will be equally minded at that point and feel like she's judging their capacity and judging their potential. She's probably trying to say you're not good enough. But you had an open mind, that lets you understand that this person is trying to actually help you learn how to do your work better. And the one for your grandfather, it taught you not to be, there's a saying I say, don't judge a book by its cover. Sometimes the way a person appears at that moment might not be all that there is attached to them. They say first impression matters a lot, but seeing someone just once doesn't tell you a single bit about their life. It doesn't even tell you 1% of their story of who they are. Maybe it might give you some clue about their personality, but that is still, there are a lot of things that made up that personality,
Yeah.
that made up that person, that make them get to that place where they are. And I've learned these over time, seeing people the way they are at first and getting to know them more, and just imagining how some people, what a great human being they are, but seeing them at first, they look like a nightmare. So it's very, very powerful, the power of mentorship, how it has helped you now to shape your life and even wanting to go ahead to mentor people more, and even giving you a practical example of how to practice your trade, which is the psychology that you studied. And so it can apply to many places, many areas. It could be from your job, it could be from maybe a family member or a friend. And this reminds me of a friend of mine, that I met a couple of years ago. I studied automotive engineering in school, and all I know really is theory. The school gives you practical teachings and examples and stuff, but it doesn't really amount to you actually facing real life problem that needs to be fixed. Otherwise, things are going to go bad. And so I met this person who works on a lot of stuff. He works on so many things that he does in mechanical and cars and machines and all that stuff. And the way we connected at first was he was even somebody that linked me up with him, and it was very natural. He just asked me a few questions, and I gave him introduction about myself, and I gave myself, and he also gave me introduction about him. And I was very excited that, hey, I think I can learn so much, from him. He seems to be very knowledgeable in what he's doing, and from the way he talks, it sounds like somebody that is a master in his craft. And also, he saw the enthusiasm in me and the excitement in me to actually learn, and that created the chemistry. And for over a couple of years, I did not just only learn now by myself how to fix cars, and I gained full practical experience of what I went to school to study. And it made me so good in it that I could literally fix anything in a car and, restore a damaged car and bring it back to life and start using it like as if, I mean, you see cars that you be like, there's no way this thing is going to run. But then we work on it and it's back to life, it's driving again. It probably lasts you a couple of years later. But not only, the one thing that I learned about that stood out was the mindset of when there is will, there is way. You can do anything. If you
Yeah.
believe, if you have the willpower to move forward and do the project, it's gonna work out. And that stood out to me, and I've always applied it to any project or any work I try to do. At first, they might look like a nightmare and feel like it's impossible, but I said, man, regardless, you kill me or I kill you, but too bad I'm not dying. So you die.
That's funny.
So, and that's usually the mindset I apply to it, and it just unlocks you into the wealth of abundance of reality. And it even drives it back to the word of the Bible in the book of Matthew. It says, with God, and it's also in the book of Romans chapter 8. It said, with man, it is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. There is no realm of impossibilities. It's just, how far are you willing to go? And how much are you willing to sacrifice? What price are you willing to pay for what you want to achieve? And if you can negotiate these things and be willing to go for it, where there is will, there is way. The way just suddenly open, and you'll be like, wow, so that was possible.
Yeah.
So it's very powerful, the power of mentorship and how it shapes life.
Oh, for sure. And just like you said, where there's a will, there's a way. The Bible is full of mentorship
It
examples
is.
that most of us, will look at it and we don't see it. because they don't say so and so was somebody's mentor.
Right.
Like
Right.
none of us talk about it that way. The term mentor is newish in our vocabulary. But I was so shocked. I spoke with Christopher Bellino, who really studies a lot of this. And I was like, wow, you're right. It's everywhere
It
we
is.
look. And so if you are following this, you are able to see that it is these relationships that we're looking at, they have to be trust relationships. Like the book of Ruth,
Right.
I like to call it in the book that I wrote, the book of Naomi,
Mm.
because Naomi was the mentor, right? And it was about survival. A lot of things in the Bible and other places are really about things that aren't, it's not a career ladder. It's, are
Right.
we going to live or are we going to die?
Mhm.
And are we going to solve this problem that
Right.
looks like you were talking about the cars that looks like I don't think that can work? And
Right.
it does. And it's not because of one person just having a will, it's because they have a will and they have a mentor.
Right.
There's somebody there who's got their back and who's saying, I'm going to teach you what I know, and we're all going to live and we'll all thrive.
Figure it out one way or the other. That's his word.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what he
Yeah.
tells me. We're gonna figure it out one way or the other, and then we end up figuring out. So
Yep.
it's very powerful. Now, one last question that I have is, I know there's somebody on the other side of the screen right now who is wondering, I don't think I have the experience to be a mentor. I don't think I'm qualified enough. I don't think I have all it takes to be a mentor. And I don't even think it's possible. I mean, why would somebody want to learn from me? It's not like I have all the old degrees out there or PhD or qualifications or whatever. What is your advice to the person?
Shame on you for thinking that. No, everyone is a mentor. Literally, everyone knows something that somebody else doesn't know.
Right,
Like, you know how to fix cars. I don't. You could mentor me, right?
right,
Everybody has a different expertise. If you look to your left and you look to your right, there's somebody with a different expertise. And I will tell you that because mentorship sort of got hijacked by corporate America as
mhm,
something that is work related, we forget that our most powerful mentorship is the passing of traditions, culture,
right,
values, the meaning in our life. When you talk about your mentor, he talked to you and taught you about spirituality and where you wanted to go. That's inside of you. That is not your career.
right,
That is putting something in you.
mhm,
That is what it is. Now, you do not have to have a PhD, an accounting degree, or whatever to do that. You just have to have lived.
right,
So the examples that I give about this are that I have every Thanksgiving, I make the same dinner. And it's made off of the cards that are on my in my grandmother's handwriting on
mhm.
an index card. And if I don't make everything that she made, people feel like it's not a holiday. They expect this meal year after year.
Continues.
And she's not around anymore. And I didn't realize the importance and value of this until my uncle came to visit us. And he, said, oh, my childhood food. This is everything. Like it made him have every memory, the scent of it, everything.
Right.
Doesn't matter where you move in the world. You could live in one area, move to another. You take your culture and your values and all of that with you.
You. Right.
And that never leaves you. And then you pass that on. That's why religion is here for centuries.
Mhm.
That's why we have traditions and values and families that can pass down. Those are the really meaningful things in our lives that if we can, fixate on that, we're doing good. So if you think you cannot mentor, shame, 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 you can. You need to just look at what is it important to you? What is the value that you hold that you want to be passed on to somebody else?
Right.
Because we all have values.
Right.
We all know what our culture is. We all know what kind of traditions we like. You may want to start a tradition, but those are the things that are passed down that we're reading about from the Bible, from other areas of other scriptures, things like that, that are there for thousands of years. So, yes, you are a mentor. No, never say you're not.
That brings back the legacy of how mentor transcend from generations to generations. It's a very timeless thing that has sustained. Even notice the society, because they are, even though the society are already losing certain values and creating new values, which some are not really sustainable, some are sustainable, we don't know yet until time tells the truth of which one is and which one is not.
Hmm.
But you can see that mentorship and the values that is transcend from that as going through times and time, like you said, is a timeless principle. Mentorship is something that never ends. Again, you don't have to have a PhD or accounting degree or whatsoever. Just be alive. Be alive. Be in this world. There's something you have gone through that someone else has not gone through. And there's a wisdom in that thing that can be learned by someone else that can even help create a life that is better for that person and probably prevent them from going through the same problems. Look at innovations that we have today. Some people don't even think they could innovate. Sometimes you encounter a problem, and that is what makes you create that innovation. And look at how many lives have been transformed by that innovation. So you have a story, you have an experience that can be shared with someone else to either make their life better or prevent them from going through the same problems, which will reduce their pain. Going through certain problems that you shouldn't have to go in the first place. It's painful, right? And when you're able to help somebody afford prevent that, you prevent them from getting a traumatic memory. And I think that is something to be very proud about if you can, shape someone's life in that area. And that takes us to the Bible. If you look at Jesus, whom Jesus was at the age of 30 when he started, his teachings and everything and all that. He was very young. Now, some people might think that because you're young, you might not be able to be a mentor. Well, that's not true. Jesus and some other people in the Bible, look at David when David was a little boy. David led the ships. David win Goliath, for the whole of Israel. So regardless of your age, regardless of where you are, regardless of your background, you have the ability to mentor. You have the ability to make a difference in the world because mentorship is about shaping lives. It's about building generations. It's about transforming and transcending timeless wisdoms and principles that create better future and better tomorrow for people. Jesus came to earth to show us the will of the Father, to show us the will of God, to show us how we are to live our life. And majority, if all of those principles, when you looked at it with an open mind, you will realize that these are principles that are supposed to create harmony, unity, peace, and collective greatness in society if it's dearly followed and maintained. And look at also Peter, how Peter's life was transformed by mentoring under Jesus. And look at the great things that Peter did. When Peter would walk, Peter's shadow alone was healing people. That's crazy. Peter's shadow alone was healing people. So, mentorship is powerful. You can transform life, you can change destinies, you can do a lot with mentorship. Imagine the amount of people that were healed from sickness and all that because of Peter and Paul and the others. Look at the how the David saved a lot of Israelites from troubles through the help of God. And look at just many, 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 many things. Look at Deborah in the Bible to look at Esther and those people. It's amazing what mentor can do to generations and generations, even after you are gone. So don't ever look down on yourself and don't ever feel like you don't have the ability to mentor. You have the ability to make a difference. Just you have to believe in yourself and believe in your ability and you never know. Someone else is waiting out there for you to change their life through your guidance and mentorship. What are the last words you have for us, Deborah?
I want to first say you are mentoring with the podcast. That's a form of modern mentoring. We didn't have this kind of tech in the past, but here
Right.
you are, every person that you're able to give out your information to, that's mentoring. So look to mentoring with the new way that we have technology and use nowadays. But the biggest thing that I want to say is look to your left and look to your right. You'll see a mentor or a mentee next to you. And you have an opportunity to be either a mentor to someone who needs your help, or you can get mentorship from somebody whose help you can get from them. So look to your left and look to your right. That's a more meaningful person than you could ever know.
That's awesome. All right, guys, that is it on Mentorship Unveiled. Unlocking the strength of mentorship to change your life and change generations and leave legacies. Key things we discussed about today. Mentorship is a natural flow. It's not forced, it's not enforced. It's something that happens naturally, just like water flows freely and takes shape of anything. That is mentorship. It can't happen without trust. You got to trust the person, you got to trust your mentor, and the mentee also got to trust the mentee and believe in their ability to make that change and make that difference. And it's a timeless principle. It goes from generation to generation. You don't have to have a PhD, you don't have to have 1 million years of experience in order for you to mentor. You just have to leave this earth. You just have to be alive on this earth. And one way or the other, you can transcend and share your experiences. And not to leave you guys without a buffer, we are partnering with somebody who was once on this show. His name was Martin Salama, and he is an expert in the field of leadership training and leadership development. And on the link below, you see a link to sign up for the leadership program. This is mostly meant for entrepreneurs and leaders in organization who are looking to drive performance and make changes and build seven-figure businesses and all of that. If you're out there, you have been facing challenges with your business, with managing your people and solving problems, and you don't know how to get out of that cycle, that repeated cycle of failure or calamity, use the link below and sign up for our partner and transform your business and launch into abundance. The world is full of abundance. There is no scarcity, it's just in your mind. If you're able to pay the price, you will get it. And that is it, guys. Do not forget to subscribe. If you're attending this episode for the first time, you can subscribe to our channel, watch our inaugural video to know what Proverbial Mind podcast is all about, and as well hit notification button so you can be notified when we post new content, and drop a comment down below to tell us how we are performing and share testimonies of how our contents have been shaping and transforming your life so far. And lastly, if you want to reach out with any testimonial or anything at all, business whatsoever it is, email us at proverbialminds@gmail.com. And until the next one, peace out, guys.